Hello and welcome to Watch Releases Recap for the week of September 1st until September the 9th. Let's begin with Zenith and their new Chronomaster Original, now with the black dial. Zenith released Chronomaster Original in 2021 in the current variation with a 38mm case by 13mm thickness. That version had a silver dial and it was very popular with a lot of watch collectors. It is a reproduction of the original from 1960s. Well, now Zenith added another version to the lineup with a black dial. If you know Zenith lineup, you probably recognize that Zenith already has a black version of a chronograph. That one is the Chronoscope, sort of the competitor to Rolex Daytona. This watch here, to me, is more of a competitor to the Speedmaster. It is that watch with historic ties and a lot of goodwill from enthusiasts community. I quite like the look of this black dial version. I think it looks very sharp, and in my opinion, these black dial versions tend to wear a little bit better than the silver dial ones. It's just a personal preference. Other than the new dial color, the watch is still the same. It still has a display case back, a date at the 4:30 o'clock position, the 3 subdials in different colors, and the scale around the dial to measure 1/10 of a second, because this chronograph still supports that function. The watch is available with both the stainless steel bracelet and the leather strap. The difference between the two is $500. So on the stainless steel bracelet, I believe it's $10,000, and on the leather strap, it's $9,500. My advice would be to pay extra $500 and get the one on the stainless steel bracelet. It is cheaper to do it this way rather than buying it on the leather strap and then trying to find the bracelet afterwards. Now let's talk about Breitling and the new Navitimer sizes. As of late, we've seen this trend from so many different brands, taking one of their popular models and shrinking it down to a smaller size. Now Breitling is joining the party with their new 36 and 32mm Navitimers. Navitimer is classically a pretty large watch. It's a pilot's watch, and of course pilot's watches tend to be larger because they have to be very easily readable from a farther distance. I like the Navitimer look. I prefer the chronograph type over the standard 3-hand one. These ones here are the standard 3-hand ones. Usually I'd say the 36mm version would be unisex. It's sort of for both women and for men with smaller wrists, or just if you prefer smaller watches, you can go with something smaller. But I think in this case, in the Navitimer's case, it's probably all targeting women. Even though 36mm is mid-size watch territory, I don't know how many men would actually go for the Navitimer in 36mm. When you're buying a Breitling, you're buying something over the top. That sort of is Breitling's shtick. So buying it in 36mm, I don't know if it makes too much sense. And the 32mm are clearly targeting women. They're made with quartz movements, and also they feature diamonds on the dials and a lot of feminine dial colors. Out of all the dial options, this pistachio green one is my favorite if I had to choose one. This release is not too exciting. I'm just glad that companies are giving consumers more options. The Heuer Carrera Chronosprint Porsche collaboration. The year 2023 marks 60th anniversary for both Porsche 911 as well as Heuer Carrera models. That's a perfect excuse to release a new watch. Surprisingly, this model is not a limited release. I know Heuer loves their limited releases. I don't know how they restrain themselves from making this one a limited release. The watch itself is actually kind of interesting. First, the good is housed within this glass box case design. Heuer featured this case design on at least one other model that I can think of, and it became very popular with a lot of watch collectors. It has that kind of domed boxed sapphire crystal that looks very cool. I also like the color scheme of this watch. I think it looks conservative yet sporty. The sizing is reasonable, 42mm diameter, almost 19mm thickness, but that's because it has an automatic chronograph movement. Speaking of the movement, this one is powered by the caliber TH20-80. This movement has one interesting and very quirky feature. If you look at the dial, you can see that there is sort of this red line highlighting the first 20 seconds on the dial. And the way this chronograph works is when you engage it, the first 20 seconds go in 9.1 seconds. So it takes the chronograph hand 9.1 seconds to travel 20 seconds. Then for the rest of the dial, from 20 seconds until 60 seconds, the chronograph hand kind of slows down and it completes the complete turn in 60 seconds like a usual chronograph. This feature is there to mimic your rev gauge on a car. Kind of interesting, but also kind of useless, because if you really want to time something, you cannot precisely time it using this chronograph. You don't know at 25-second mark if it's been 25 seconds or has it been 11 seconds or 15 seconds. There's just no way to know. So it's kind of interesting, but also kind of useless. The watch will be available in both stainless steel case as well as the rose gold case. The stainless steel case is around 10,000 US dollars and the rose gold case is around 25,000 US dollars. I am of two minds about this watch. On one hand, I kind of like it. I think it's so weird and quirky that it kind of makes sense almost. But on the other hand, $10,000 for a watch that, yeah, it tells you the time and it has a date function, but the chronograph function is sort of useless. I think it's more of a conversation starter. This is a watch for someone who already has a bunch of watches and just wants something interesting in their collection. So I am in between liking it and not liking it, but I think I'm leaning towards liking it. But what do you guys think? Leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about this type of function on a watch. Moving on to the next release. Let's talk about Seiko and their 110 years anniversary of making wristwatches. Back in 1913, 110 years ago, Seiko has created their very first wristwatch. It's called Laurel, and Seiko has paid homage to this watch countless times. Now they're releasing 7 new limited release models to celebrate this 110th anniversary. And I think some of these models are actually quite cool. Let's begin with Seiko Presage SPB 401. It's essentially a Presage with a 40mm case diameter, 12mm thickness, 100 meters of water resistance. It's powered by the movement caliber 6R27 and it runs at a frequency of 28,800 vibrations per hour. This one is limited to 1,500 pieces and it's priced at $1,250 US dollars. The next one is Seiko Presage Sharp Edge Series, reference SPB 413. This one is sized at 40.2 millimeters with the 13 millimeter case thickness. I'm a big fan of this sharp edged series. I actually owned one and I sold it for a reason that is very stupid to a lot of you guys. I hated how Seiko's logo was sort of raised on the platform. Well, in this watch, they actually fixed that issue and I am liking this watch the most out of all of them that are released. It is powered by the caliber 6R55 automatic movement. It's not a high beat movement, beating at 21,600 vibrations per hour. And this one will be limited to 2,000 pieces, priced at $1,050 US dollars. I'm actually very tempted by this watch, although I don't really need another watch in my collection, but I want another watch. All right, the next one is Seiko Presage SSK015. It's a GMT watch with a 40.8 millimeter case diameter, 13 millimeter case thickness. This one is actually featuring a sapphire crystal as opposed to hardlex crystals like you can find on other versions of this watch. This one is powered by the caliber 4R34 automatic GMT movement, and it's also not a high beat movement, beating at 21,600 vibrations per hour. This one is limited to 350 pieces and is priced at $625 US dollars, one of the cheaper offerings from this limited edition collection. The next one is the Prospex Alpinist SPB 409. Just last week, I talked about the new Alpinist GMTs. Well, now we have a new edition, this limited edition watch with a white dial. It actually looks very attractive. It has the same case size as the standard Alpinist GMTs, 39.5 millimeters diameter, 13.6 millimeters thickness, 100 meters of water resistance, and this one is powered by the same 6R54 automatic GMT movement. Again, it's not a high beat movement, and this version is limited to 3,000 pieces, priced at $1,300 US dollars. I think 3,000 pieces is a pretty big limited release, so if you really want to get your hands on one, I think you'll be able to. The next one in this release is the Seiko Prospex Speedtimer 1/100 solar chronograph, reference SFJ009. Not a big fan of these type of watches. I don't know, the multiple subdials don't really work for me, but I know some of you guys really like these watches. This watch has a 42mm case diameter. It's only 13mm thick, and it has that caliber 8A50 solar chronograph movement, so you really never have to change the battery as long as you wear the watch enough. This one again has a pretty big limited release, 3,500 pieces, and it's priced at $1,050 US. Then we have Seiko Astron GPS Solar SSJ019. It has this rectangular case. It's actually the most expensive out of the bunch, but it does have a GPS controlled solar powered movement. These watches are actually really cool. There's a lot of technology that goes into creating a watch like that, but of course it has a higher price tag. These ones are priced at $1,900 and they're limited to only 800 pieces because, of course, higher price tag makes the watch a little bit less desirable than some of the other offerings. And finally, the most affordable one and one of the coolest ones is the Seiko 5 Sport SRPK41. Is this release's take on a classic field watch? It has a conservative diameter of 39.5mm. It's only 13mm thick, and it has 100 meters of water resistance. This one is still powered by the Seiko 4R36 automatic movement with 41 hours of power reserve and 21,600 vibrations per hour. This one has the highest limited release, 6,000 pieces, and it's priced at $425 US. So if you really want one of these, I'm sure you can get one. If you look at all of these releases, you can see that one common theme is that little accent by the 12 o'clock position, a throwback to the original watch from 1913. The only version that doesn't really have this accent at the 12 o'clock position is the Seiko 5 series. This one has the 24-hour markings on the inner chaptering within the dial. I quite like this collection. I think Seiko has been sort of hit or miss lately, but with this limited release, they're sort of a hit. I like more of them that I dislike, especially that sharp-edged one. It's really tempting to get one. I think that dial looks very good. The finishes on these watches are excellent, and the fit on the wrist is super comfortable. Let's talk about the bigger brother of Seiko, Grand Seiko, and their new model reference SBG-J273. Grand Seiko has been sort of on a roll in August. I covered probably 4 or 5 different watches that they have released. This one is not a limited release, which is good. It's going to be added to their standard GMT catalog, I guess. And I really love this watch. It's perfect for the fall. It has that fall theme. Apparently the dial is supposed to represent red leaves falling on the ground or falling on the surface of the lake, and that beautiful color combination is perfectly reflected here. I even like the little gold accents because some of the leaves will be gold. It has the date at the 6 o'clock position. It still has that conservative 39.5mm case, powered by Seiko's excellent high beat caliber 9S86 automatic GMT movement, 55 hours of power reserve, and a beat rate of 36,000. I think this watch looks excellent. It will be popular with a lot of watch enthusiasts. I think Grand Seiko lately has had more hits than misses, and this watch here is the perfect representation of that. The only problem I have with this watch, just like with other versions of the same GMT, is 30 meters of water resistance. It deserves at least 100. That's the only problem I have. Other than that, I think it's pretty good. Even the price is somewhat reasonable. It's priced at $7,100 US, and you should be able to pick one up from your Grand Seiko AD in North America and worldwide. Let's briefly talk about the release of Blancpain and Swatch Scuba 50 Fathoms monstrosity that they have dropped earlier today. Usually I record these videos on Friday, but today I recorded it on Saturday because I was waiting to see the response of watch community to the actual release. I actually did a video about this earlier when the watch was just announced, and I gave you my reactions. I'm not going to talk more about it again because I really haven't changed my mind on the watch. Some of the comments on that video are very positive. Some people are liking this watch. Some people are very negative on this watch. I tend to be a little bit more negative towards it. But if you like it, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. And this watch has proven to be very popular. There are various articles of this release, people camping overnight to be the first ones in line to purchase this watch. Here locally in Vancouver, there is a Swatch boutique, and I know that people were lining up the night before to be the first ones in line. So this watch release so far has been almost as popular, or maybe even the same popularity as the Moon Swatch hype that we have seen last year. Some of this hype is from the watch collecting community, people that actually really want to add one to their collection, but a lot of it is from resellers. You can already tell that these watches are appearing on eBay from $700 to $2,000, which is just ridiculous. It's double, triple, quadruple of the MSRP. Please don't pay that much for this watch. It's not even worth $400. That's what they're asking for it at the retail price, but it's definitely not worth $700 plus. You'll be disappointed with it if you pay $700 for this timepiece. Just wait a little bit and you'll be able to pick one up from the store, no problem. By all accounts, all the watches from the stores have been sold out. Nobody knows the exact quantity that was released, but I think Swatch by this point is very good with these limited releases. They have had a lot of experience from Moon swatches, so now they know exactly what they're doing. They have limited that initial release to build more interest, more hype around the watch, and we'll see over the next few months these watches trickling into Swatch stores more and more, and that resale value going down more and more. And that's it. Those were the watch news and watch releases for this week. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about the releases. What did you like? What you didn't like? Are you gonna buy one of these Swatch monstrosities? Leave your thoughts below. I always enjoy reading your comments. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye.